Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing some simple basic programming. I'm going to show you 3 techniques that we can use for doing conditional checks on variables. And what is a conditional check? A conditional check allows us to have the computer perform different actions based on the value of variables that it is testing within our program. And these are very simple techniques. Of course, you can make them as elaborate as you want, but the simple techniques I'll be showing you today are very simple, but they're very powerful as well and very useful for making programs or games or whatever you want. So I'm doing this programming on an Aquarius Plus emulator, and I think the Aquarius and Aquarius Plus computers are actually very excellent computers for learning to program in BASIC. But of course, BASIC programming language is typically quite similar between different computers, although not all BASIC implementations use exactly the same commands. So obviously the commands I'm showing you today and the techniques we're looking at today work on the Aquarius computer. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first technique we're going to use is something you're all familiar with, I'm sure, which is the simple if-then statement. So first I want our program to prompt the user to enter a number. So I'll start here with line 10, input, enter a number from 1 to 3, semicolon, and then we'll put that value into a variable a, just like that. And now we want to check that variable to see what value it has in it and perform certain actions based on what value it finds. Okay, so line 20, if a equals 1, then print 1. Line 30, if a equals 2, then print 2. Line 40, if a equals 3, then print 3. And then finally line 50, we'll loop back to the beginning, go to 10, and do it all over again. So now let's run the program. It's asking us for a number. We'll enter the number 2, and it prints the word 2. Enter the number 1, prints the word 1. Enter the number 3, it prints the word 3, and so forth. Okay, very simple technique, one I'm sure you're all very familiar with. Let's clear the screen here, list our program, and we'll look at our second technique. So I'm going to delete lines 20, 30, 40, and 50. And now here is our program listing asking us to enter a number. So this time what we're going to do is use a logical comparator statement, in this case an AND statement, to check the value that's in the A variable and perform certain actions. So we can do this all actually in one single line. So I'll enter line 20 here and we'll say print, and now I'll open parentheses and I'll type the number 1, and now I'll use this logical comparison, the word AND, A equals 1, close parentheses. So now we can see here, if A equals 1, it's going to print the number 1. That's what this AND statement here does. It makes sure that it only prints this number 1 if the variable A equals 1. But now we want to print different values, of course, so we'll put a plus symbol here, open parentheses again, and we'll say 2 and A equals 2, and then finally plus 3 and A equals 3. Just like that. And now finally line 30, we will loop back to line 10 to run the program all over again. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Enter a number, let's enter the number 1, and it prints the number 1. Enter 2, prints 2, enter 3, it prints 3. So now here we can use logical conditional statements, in this case the AND statement, to do our conditional checks on the A variable. All right, so now let's break out of this program, and we will delete lines 20 and 30, and we'll start again. Now the third technique I'm going to show you is one you probably are also familiar with, which is the on GOTO or on GOSUB statement. In this case, we're going to use on GOTO. Now, not all versions of BASIC necessarily have the on GOTO or on GOSUB functionality implemented. So you'll have to check whatever computer you're using to see if it has that function included. But this Aquarius Plus emulator does, so I'm going to show it to you. So line 20, we're going to say on, and then we're going to check obviously the variable a, so I'll put a here. So on a, go to, and now depending on what value it finds in the variable a, it'll go to a certain line number. And now I need to give it a list of line numbers. So I'll give it 3 line numbers separated by commas. So line 100, line 200, and line 300. Now, if you're not familiar with how the onGoTo statement works, what it does is it checks the value in the variable that you give it. In this case, I'm giving it the variable a, and it's going to jump to a particular line number or go to a particular line number based on the value that it finds in that variable. So if it finds the number 1, it's going to go to the first line number I give it, which in this case is 100. If it finds the number 2, it'll go to the second line number, which in this case is line 200. And if a equals 3, it's going to go to the third line number, which in this case is line 300. So now we just need to enter those 3 line numbers. So line 100, I'll say print 1, because the value in a was 1 for that case. And now I want to jump back to the beginning of the program as soon as it reaches this line. So I'm going to put a colon, which allows me to have more than one command on one basic line. And here I'm going to put a GOTO statement and jump back to line 10, which is the beginning of the program. So line 200 will print 2, go to 10, and finally line 300 will print 3, go to 10. Now when we run this program, again it's asking us for a number, and it's going to jump to one of these line numbers based on our input. So I'll give it the number 2, and since it found the number 2, it goes to the second line number that I gave it in our list, which is line 200, where it tells it to print the word 2 on the screen, which it did right here. So if I enter 3, it prints 3. If I enter 1, it prints 1, and so forth. So there we go. Now we have 3 simple methods we can use for doing conditional checks in basic programming and have our program automatically branch or perform different actions based on the value that it finds in a variable. So again, very simple techniques. You can expand on them if you want and make them more elaborate, depending how complex your program is. But I think these are 3 good tools to have in our tool belt when we're making games and other types of programs. So that's it for today. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you found this a little bit enjoyable and interesting and hopefully informative if you're a beginning programmer in BASIC. And we'll see you next time. And until then, take care. Bye for now.